Hi, my name's Tammy, and welcome to College Credit Coach, where we are striving to help kids of any age earn college credits before ever taking a college course. And today we have with us my third child, Jonathan, who just finished his U.S. History 1 CLEP test. And so I thought we would interview him and just see what his experiences were like and any advice that he may have. So we'll just start out by talking a little bit about the different curriculums and textbooks that you did in order to study for the U.S. History 1 test. And the U.S. History 1 test is from early colonization to the end of Reconstruction in 1877. Those are the time periods that you want to specifically study for. And so the first thing we did was we got a textbook, and it was the Landmark Baptist textbook, U.S. History 1 and 2. The first book covers chapters 1 through 18, and then the second book has 5 chapters that are within that era that you'll want to study. And so could you tell us a little bit about, did you enjoy that textbook, and what did you learn from it?
Really just a good foundation for really everything. Definitely it's good to read. Really helped with the first presidencies, and I'd say James Madison, that era, that around that time period. Got you familiar with some of the presidents that you encounter later on, so that was very helpful. Otherwise, I really wouldn't have known who they are and what they did.
Sure.
They had kind of a little section about that. So.
Sure. Okay, and another thing that we did was Modern States Online, which I'll go into more detail about it in a separate video, but for each CLEP test that we take as a family, my kids will study the Modern States Online course. And so you did the U.S. History course, and how did you feel about that?
Really good for the Jacksonian era, around President Andrew Jackson. I did not do the readings, so you could do the readings. I kind of had already, I felt like I knew the information and I really didn't need it, but you could if you wanted. Okay,
and one of the other things that we did then was Khan Academy online course for U.S. History, which I know that you found was very interesting. And do you remember what you liked about that one?
I really liked how they just went into the very early colonization, the Roanoke colony, Jamestown more so, and gave you more details and the backstory to that. If nothing else, it's just super fun. But it was very, very helpful.
Okay. And you just did the videos of that,
just
right?
Just did the videos.
Not the readings.
Not the readings, and only did the end of chapter quizzes. Okay. If you do not get the textbook, the original Landmark textbook, I think you could easily, just by doing the Khan Academy readings and the Modern States readings, not need that textbook if you don't want to buy 2 textbooks.
Yep. And I will put the link to all these things that we're talking about in the description box below. So the textbook and the Modern States Khan Academy, all those things I'll link down below. Okay, so we're not done. We still did more. We also watched a Mometrics YouTube video called U.S. History 1 Study Guide, and that was like 4 hours long. And what did we do with that?
So Mom printed it out just so they would just basically write out pretty much all that they were going to talk about on the whiteboard, and then they would just leave a couple blanks that they would fill in. So Mom just took a screenshot of them. She would print those out, and then I would just write in the blanks with them. So just a note-taking version with less writing for me, since I'm very slow and do not like writing.
Right. It helps the visual learner definitely learn, but it's a great way. It was great information, too. If I remember, you really liked the information there.
Yep, and it's very engaging, too.
Okay. Okay. Then one of the last things we did was the REA CLEP U.S. History 1 CLEP Study Guide. And it's a study guide book with then 3 practice tests in it, right? And what did you like about the textbook itself?
It's the practice tests are on a CD.
Okay.
So you don't need the CDs if you don't have a CD player in your computer.
They're on the CD, and they're actually written out on the back of the study guide too. So you can do it either way.
You could do the paper ones. for the book, do not treat it like a study guide. It's more like a textbook, and when there's something in, because that's basically all the information that's going to be on the test. When there's something in that book that you know about, but you don't know maybe one fact they mentioned, or you just know a little bit about that subject, go in, study that subject, get to know everything about that, and really study that hard. I just read through it very fast on a weekend and treated it more like a study guide. So treat it like a textbook that you need to take time and remember the things. You can look up things if you need to. I did that a lot.
And that's what we kind of did the whole time. We had our main textbook, but then we went through all these different things in Modern States Khan Academy and Mometrics, finding different information and compiling it all together so that you felt ready and able to pass.
This particular CLEP U.S. History Test 1 has 120 questions in 90 minutes, and the normal CLEP test has 100 questions in 90 minutes. So it was really good to get used to the time for that. One thing that they tried to do on the REAs, and that's very realistic too on the real test, is that they're trying to get you to really bog down on your first couple. They make them
First couple questions.
Couple questions. They make them a little harder to understand. Something they always figure out something that you know very little about, and it's really bogs you down. I think I spent 3 minutes on my first question in the real test, and that was not a good way to start off a test that I was concerned about for time.
So you would say keep pushing through the questions.
Keep pushing through those first 1 to 3 questions, and just even if don't spend more than a minute on them. If minutes up and you see your clock's up, minutes past, just click one that you think is the best option, mark it for review, and go to the next one.
Okay, let's ask our third question. So normally when we as a family are preparing for CLEP tests or a DSST, we take practice tests. And so can you tell us what practice tests you took and how they prepared you?
I took the REA ones, and then we took 3 tests from petersons.com.
Yep.
It's an online, I think it's $30 for a month or something. Yep. And just took those 3. They can be kind of slow, and I kind of trained myself that I didn't have a time limit, so I would just take long on the questions and try to figure them out, which was good because I figured them out, but I really wouldn't remember it, and it kind of trained me wrong to just take how much time I wanted. So then the REA was really good because I had a time limit to, prepare to pace myself for a test that had not much time.
So sometimes with the practice test, we find that it'll benefit us in one being questions and information and knowing that if we know the information or not. And number 2, just even time constraints, being pushed by time limits. And number 3, even with especially REA, just knowing how to navigate the computer system and take tests online. Because, normally it can be paper and pen, so these kind of things help.
DSST and CLEP have a slightly different format. With DSST, you can take 2 practice questions to just figure out how the software works, how you bookmark things before time starts ticking. With CLEPs, you click through all the warnings and then the test starts. So
be ready.
Just go whizzing through them, and then when you see the question, go at it.
Okay. And in general, the rule we've heard, and it applies to us, is that if the kids take a practice test and score 60% or above in at least 2 tests, then they're ready to take the real CLEP test. And that did apply. You were you were getting 60% or above, and you passed. So, boy, you already kind of answered my number 4 question of how you were feeling during the test. Let's go to if you have any advice for future test takers.
You would not need the History 1, the landmark material. Like I said, just you could do the Khan reading and the Modern States reading.
Okay.
That would be fine.
What about
Metrics?
Okay.
Metrics. If you're not gonna print those sheets out and write them in, and you want to take your own notes, at least just print out the screenshot of their marker board once it is filled in, because they're great vocab. Me and Mom went over those a couple times. Really good, and a lot of the stuff was on the test. So
Yep. And I think we touched at least a little bit previously on colonization. Early exploration and colonization, you said, was a huge part, and you really want to know a lot about that. Anything you want to add there?
Early colonization, very just Khan Academy was so good.
Okay.
If you're running low, like you scheduled the test or something happens and you want to get it done before that, at least do the early colonization videos
Okay.
on Khan. I'd
Okay.
say like up to chapter 3.
Okay.
And that doesn't take long, maybe
And
like a day.
Then you also mentioned a couple more things to me. You mentioned that you really need to know the acts, the different acts and Stamp Act and...
Stamp Act, all those acts, like the act when it was issued, sometimes when it was repealed, who was the prime minister at that time. I don't know if that was what they were called back then.
Yep.
Those are things you really have got to know.
Okay. And then what about...
I went into the test pretty clueless on those.
Okay.
I had only really known
what they were, right?
what
We
they
kind of knew
were.
the definition,
I
but-
kind of knew what they were, but I didn't know much about them, like the dates or anything. And I knew what they were mainly from just reading biographies of like George Washington and Benjamin Rush. So that was
Okay.
kind of scary. So for sure,
Know that.
go back.
So early colonization, acts, and what about the presidents? And specifically, I think you mentioned to me knowing the presidents, what they did, and then the Lincoln-Douglas debates?
Yes, something with Douglas. I think he was pro-slavery, but then sometimes it seemed like he was anti-slavery. It didn't add up to me. But then I kind of forgot that it didn't add up. So
You were able to answer the questions anyway?
I was able to answer them. I think I got them wrong, but
Okay.
You know,
And
so
lastly,
study those.
just in wrapping up, we are a read out loud family. We love to read especially during the winter times. Dad will read out loud as the family is sitting around. What are some of the fun books that and I'll mention these biography books are from the series Christian Heroes Then and Now or Heroes of History Then and Now. And I'm sure there's lots of other biographies that you could read, but those are our favorites. And so do you have any that you would recommend that were just fun reading to prepare you for the US history
Benjamin Rush. We just got Benjamin Franklin. I have not read that one. George Washington, Abraham Lincoln. There was a lot of ones that really helped, and I really didn't realize they would.
Okay. And now, how many college credits do you have now?
9.
And you've taken 3 tests then?
3 tests.
Okay, then on a scale of 1 to 5, like 1 being the easiest, 5 being the hardest, where would you put the U.S. history test?
So astronomy was probably the hardest out of 5.
Okay.
That was probably the hardest one I've done. I'd say history was probably a 4, so easier than astronomy.
Okay, so those are just the thoughts that we had about the different curriculums and textbooks we use, the different resources we used online. We hope this is helpful. We would love to have you comment down below. Tell us your experience with the U.S. History CLEP test. The things that maybe you found really helpful, questions you may have. Let us hear from you. We love hearing from you, and we will see you next time. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.
Bye.